Somber gear, Kobe Bryant passing away at the age of 41 yesterday. He died tragically in a helicopter accident alongside his 13-year-old daughter, as well as 7 others. Many current players were heartbroken. Watch how the Spurs and Raptors honored him at the beginning of the game yesterday, soon after the awful news became known.
And the Toronto Raptors going to dribble it up. There's a 24-second shot clock. And, of course, Kobe Bryant wore number 24. And I wonder if that is what is happening in honor of him. 24-second shot clock expires. Greg Popovich, and he's going to now point to Murray. And he's going to dribble it out. Fans on their feet here in San Antonio, acknowledging the greatness of Kobe Bryant.
I watched that all day yesterday. It gives you the chills to watch it. That was the start of the Spurs-Raptors game, and a number of games actually did something of the same sort to pay tribute to Kobe Bryant yesterday. Sports Illustrated senior writer Chris Mannix, you've spent your career covering this sport. What are you going to take away from covering the career and the life of Kobe Bryant?
It almost felt to me like there were 2 iterations of Kobe Bryant. There was the guy you covered for maybe the first 10 years of his career, through the first level of championships, through the incident in Colorado. And then, you know, Kobe was a more guarded guy back then, early in his career. But then it seemed like maybe 06, 07, a year around that time, he kind of transitioned into a much more open figure. And it seemed like around then he started to get the media, and he started to get the value of kind of shaping the narrative to a degree. I started to cover him more in that second iteration of him, and I always found that he, even if you weren't asking the right question, he would give you the right answer. He knew what you were trying to get to, and he would find a way to answer it in the best way possible. So he was probably one of the top 3 best interviews I've ever experienced.
I was going to say the same thing. Early in his career, because I was there for his whole career, he was more guarded. Maybe you could think of it as aloof or whatever with the media. And then you could see in the middle of his career, he just began getting more and more comfortable with the media. And toward the end, I mean, he was tremendous with the media. I think he enjoyed conversations with the media because I think he enjoyed intelligent discussion. You know, I really do think he felt that way. And so he would challenge you, too. I remember one time I wrote an article where an assistant coach, anonymously from another team, had said, yeah, we want Kobe to shoot. You know, they're easier to guard when he's shooting too much and not getting his teammates involved. And I saw him at practice like a week later, a few days later, and he was like, really? He was like, come on, like in a kind of a joking way, but serious. Come on, Chris, come on. You know better than that. I need to be shooting this much. So he was very, since he was so intelligent, he had a lot of fun with the media, but it was a lot of fun covering it. And when you covered another team, like especially after they started winning the championships, it was your team's biggest game of the year whenever they played the Lakers. When they had him and Shaq, or even after that, because by then Kobe was an icon. He had won 3 rings. The circus was coming to town when the Lakers with Kobe came to play your team.
And you mentioned the kind of 2 different personalities. There was, I would even add maybe a third to it, which was at the very end, the last few years of his career, where he started, almost in a charming way, cursing during interviews, where he started really being much more candid than you almost ever hear from superstar athletes. Like the beginning of his career, he almost had, I felt, the Tiger Woods approach, and they're around the same age, which was, I'm not going to say anything that's going to have, that people are going to be able to use against me. He then, after he had, as you mentioned, the incident in Colorado, and then the time kind of in the NBA wilderness to a degree where every day it was, how many points is Kobe going to score? That was the story more so than are the Lakers going to win, because you knew those teams with Smush Parker and Lamar, they had a Sasha Vujacic, they had a defined ceiling. And then post those titles with Pal, when it was the only thing left on his list was to pass Michael as in points. I'm sure he for a long time thought he was going to get to him in rings, couldn't quite get there, pass him in points. But then he just started being told, as transparent as I've ever seen an athlete be, but also would share how acutely aware he was not only of the conversation surrounding him, but of everything that's going around in not only the sports world, but the world at large. And that was, for me, the first time I started to realize, oh, he's leaving basketball and going to do things not basketball related. I would have thought in 2012, what's the next chapter for Kobe Bryant? He buys a percentage of a team and has some role in basketball. And that is where there are two parts of this that are really, really hard for me to reconcile. There's the part with the young children involved that I can't speak about. And we showed a picture of Gianna in the previous segment, and we had to go to commercial break earlier. You guys didn't see it, but I was sobbing. The other part of it that I can keep myself composed on is, that is so sad, is he was going to do, I don't know if you could match what he did on the basketball court, but damn, he was determined to come close off the court. And it was a hell of a start. How about an Oscar off the bat and work backwards from there? And it wasn't just, can I get to $1 billion? Sure, I mean, he would have if he didn't. But it was, can I master another field? And that, I think like Bill Bradley was an NBA player and then, U.S. Senator.
Right.
And ran for, there's very few people who have had a second act rival their first act if the first act was great. His first act was one of the greatest, and it was just in the beginning of the second act, and we'll never know.
You both spent so much time interviewing NBA athletes. Was there something about Kobe while you were interviewing him that you thought, he's so good at what he's doing now, but you could just tell there's going to be a second chapter? You could tell he's so smart and he's so seemingly connected. There's going to be something bigger, if not as big as what he's done on the court.
You saw bigger, but at the time, around Kobe's head, I thought he might become Joe Dumars and run an NBA team.
Yes.
And do that. You could see his mind working and being able to build a winner. Anyone that says they saw coming what Kobe did is just straight lying. Him going out there and starting a multimedia company and opening a publishing house and seeking out Oscars and Emmys and then having one basketball academy, then another basketball academy. I mean, he took a completely unconventional path. And I'm with you, Nick. It was just beginning. Like, he had built such a strong foundation. There are so many projects in the works right now with Kobe's media companies and his publishing house. Some of them may never see the light of day now, but many of them will come out over the next year or so. He was building an empire. He was doing stuff. And you mentioned Bill Bradley. It's an interesting comparison. He went a different path. Maybe not since Bill Bradley have we seen a player do something completely outside the box in the way that Kobe did.
What I knew from interviewing Kobe and just learning about his life, he was intelligent enough to do whatever he wanted after basketball. But, as I said earlier, I didn't know that he would, because I felt like he was so focused on the game. Like, this was so important to him that I was concerned about his transition after basketball. I didn't think he'd find anything that fulfilled that competitive desire for him. And he moved on. His transition from basketball to life after was as smooth and seamless as any I've seen, and as impressive as as I've seen. And now I look back and, like, there were hints, because he had talked about, as I emailed with him about a documentary he did called Muse. I think it was on Showtime, and just comments he made about his sneakers. You got my new sneakers. Like, he took so much pride in everything he did and the things he did off the court, that once he was done playing, he was like, okay, I'm done with basketball. That chapter's over. I am 100% focused on my next chapter, and that's why he could be so successful.
And except, of course, and tragically now, it did feel like he got the basketball fix via his daughter.
Right.
And via coaching her and trying to help teach her to be as great as he believed he could be. And that ends up ending as tragically as it possibly can.
You know what he was never, ever going to do? This. He was never, ever. You saw, he did a couple of those TNT.
He could have been tremendous.
He saw a couple of those he was on TNT a couple of times. He'd be sitting like this. He'd be like, what am I doing here? Why am I talking about this dumb stuff?
Right.
Earlier in the show, we shared some heartfelt sentiments from Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe's teammate for so many years. Shaq's son, Sharif O'Neal, weighed in with this emotional tweet explaining how his father's old teammate would check in on him constantly. He said, I'm crying while reading these messages over. Even when I was at my worst, you checked in on me so often. I really appreciate you for that because I needed that so much. I was so defeated sitting in that hospital every day, and I thought my basketball life was over. You brought a smile to my face. Thank you. Love you.